It's mid-February and it's 60 degrees out. I think the groundhog lied. In any case, it's been a very, very warm winter, warm late winter, and that means we really have to reassess our timetable on a few things that we're doing. I had planned to put on pollen patties towards the end of February, but with the way things have been, I decided to move that up a couple of weeks. Like the whiteboards at the bottom, the pollen patties can actually give you some clues as to the activity that's going on in the hive, or at least coming back and looking at what they're doing with the pollen patties.
I don't know where I'd fit pollen patty, but I'm going to try to put some in here.
If the bees are rearing a lot of brood, then they will consume those pollen patties in short order. If they're not consuming the pollen patties, then you have to assume there really isn't too much brood activity going on. So that can be a good indicator if you peek in there. I don't expect much at first because brood has to build up. But if you open up a hive in a few weeks and they haven't touched the pollen patty, then that might be a red flag that there's an issue in the hive, or in worst case scenario, the hive may have gone queenless. On the other hand, if they're chomping it down real fast, then that's a good sign they're raising a lot of brood. Now, as soon as real pollen becomes available, such as tree pollen, they'll stop eating the pollen patties, like on a dime. But in the meantime, we want to have enough in there so that they're encouraged to raise brood.
Well, we have some sugar that fell all the way to the bottom board. Now we'll stick that in there as well. The bottom board area is totally inaccessible to them, so up here they can get to it. This second hive is scary small. I think it's a dead out yet, but well, there are bees up here. That's pleasant. Hopefully they're not just up here to rob. Well, we'll see. Stores are good. It's either a tiny, tiny cluster or there's more below. Good stores of honey still. Now, as I say, this hive threw me last year. Wildly good stores downstairs. But how much of a cluster do we have?
I should mention that the pollen patties that I'm using have real pollen in them. There's two types of patties, the totally synthetic type and the type that have real pollen in them. And there's a dramatic difference in how the bees will readily accept the ones that have real pollen in them and kind of ignore the ones that don't unless things are really desperate.
But it looks like they might be down below as well. Okay. So there might be hope for this colony. But it's spooky small. Spooky small. I'm going to put some pollen cake down in here. They're not going to starve. But it just might not have enough population to make it through. I don't know. Not going to count them out. I did that last year and they fooled me.
Since it's 60 degrees out, you're not going to find a tight cluster. They could very well be dispersed about. So I got my fingers crossed on this one.
Bees, and they're eating through things. I fired up the smoker. I really want to get some pollen cake in these guys.
I'm using the smoker to drive the bees down a bit, primarily because of the fact that even though it's 60 degrees, any bees that were born in late fall may not have oriented themselves to where the hive is. So there's a chance if they're outside the hive that they won't really find their way around to the entrance. And unfortunately, it's still getting rather cold at night, so the bees that are outside could very well just be chilled to death. So I'd rather keep them in if possible. The sugar is somewhat wet that's on the bottom board, so I'm hoping that'll cake together and they'll be able to eat it. You know, when they eat through the sugar, a lot of the granules fall to the bottom.
Good. No, thank you. Nobody upstairs.
Ending up in the burlap is kind of a death sentence since they can't get back down to the hive. And I know it's only one bee here or there, but I still like to coax them down if possible, or at least shoo them out.
Again, bees. Good. Downstairs a little bit.
My apologies for all the wind noise, but unfortunately it was rather breezy out, which it sometimes is when it's warm in the winter. So,
What's these? More broken up sugar from before. But these guys didn't have that much last time. I don't know how much of this will just knock through. Probably a lot, because there isn't too many chunky pieces. Good. Girls, I want you downstairs, out of the way. And now, our often quarrelsome hive. We'll see if they're quarrelsome today. Well, they're alive. Now, I don't really have any room up here. I'm going to actually slap the cake underneath this. Try to get them nice and upset with me. Yeah, maybe not.
nothing seems to soothe the savage bee as much as a little bit of smoke. So these guys are a little feisty normally, but today they're pretty mellow, and the only difference really is that I did smoke them before going in there.
Try to get it over closer to this area here. Girls were nice today. I'm impressed. I might be able to smell that spring's coming. So, we have bees in all of the hives again. We got pollen patties on. It's mid-February. That would mean by second cycle of brood, you're talking mid-April. The first cycle is not going to be that powerful, but as they build up, they'll start eating more. If the weather turns against us in March, especially late March, we got a bit of a problem because the buildup will be too much and the uptake of food will be a lot. But we've had a mild winter so far. The next week or so is forecasted as being 50s and 60s. That's going to cause an early bloom on the trees. So I got my fingers crossed that we're going to have a good spring buildup. Everything depends on the weather, and we have no control of that one there. Till next time, from Buzz Park, good day.